Hello everybody, happy Friday. I want to say thank you for those that are returning to my channel and hello to those that are watching my video for the first time. I wanted to come on here and talk about the book club that I put together this year where I work. And if you haven't watched any of my other videos, I am a librarian's assistant at a middle school. And I thought that I would try to organize a book club at work with staff members because I'll get teachers coming to me asking for book recommendations for students, and I thought, well, what better way to get them acquainted with middle grade books or YA books than to read some of them so they can firsthand recommend books to students. So I thought I'd come on here and share what books our club read for this past school year, for the year 21-22. So at the start we had a lot more in our group, and then it kind of dwindled down after the holidays. So at first we had enough that we split the group in half, and half would read a middle grade and half would read a YA. And then after we read those two groups would get together and discuss it. So we had 2 books going for the first half of the year, and then towards the end we just cut it down to 1 book. I think we did that for 2 months. So to start out, we didn't start in September. I decided to put this together a little past the start of the school year. So in October, the YA group read Firekeeper's Daughter, and the author is Angeline Boulley. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. And everyone that was in that YA group gave this book 5 stars. I was not in the YA group. I felt like since I work in the middle grade library, I had to focus more on the middle grade books than the YA. So I mean, this is still on my radar, don't get me wrong, everybody's raving about this, but they all loved it so much and gave it 5 stars. They said that it was perfect because our school is really close to the Ojibwa reservation, and in this book they are focused on the Ojibwe reservation. So a lot of our students are Ojibwe, and so it was really cool for people to kind of like put the cultures together and understand things a little bit more. So they all would highly recommend people read that book. And then for the middle grade group, we read Night Books by J.A. White. There were a little bit of mixed reviews on this. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was a great, creepy middle grade book for those students that like scary books, but I mean, they are in middle grade, so it has to be middle grade scary. I have not seen the movie. I'm gonna wait until Halloween this year to watch it. But I loved it, and I would highly recommend you read this book. There's a twist I did not see coming, and even though there were some that didn't care for this book, they still liked how they did, like the twist ending. They didn't expect that coming. So they really like that. And I think sometimes when people read middle grade books, they don't keep in mind who the audience is. So like I'm 41 and a half and I'm reading a middle grade book. I'm not gonna see it the same as like a 6th grader would. So when you're an adult and you're reading middle grade or even YA, you have to keep in mind that the author is trying to get that 6th grader, not the 41 and a half year old. So you have to kind of like keep that in mind as you're reading, if you ever read middle grade books. So then for November, The middle grade people read Counting by Sevens by Holly Goldberg Sloan. And that book, really great book. I gave it 5 stars. I would highly recommend it. It's about a girl that finds comfort in counting by sevens, and she is fostered because something happens to her parents. I don't want to give too much away. And so she's trying to deal with the loss of her parents, living with foster parents, school, like dealing with her peers and the fact that she lost her parents. You know, I'm sure peers would have, I mean, some kids tease people when they lose family members or say things that they don't realize and sometimes realize that it's mean. So it was really endearing, and I would highly recommend reading Counting by Sevens. Well written. And for November, the YA group, I actually read both because I had read Counting by Sevens last summer. So then I read Dear Evan Hansen, and everybody loved that book. I have not seen the movie. I cried. Loved how they dealt with such a hard topic, and like from multiple people, the people that are left behind when somebody dies by suicide, and how they cope with it, and family members. And it was a good book. Sad, obviously, and it really tugged at heartstrings here because around that time we had recently lost 2 students in our school district, one by a bad accident. It happened to be a graduate from last year, had a fatal accident and passed away, and his siblings were in our school. And then we had another student in our high school that had died by suicide. So it was very hard. It was like, it happened so closely and it was hard, but it was a really good read. So I would recommend picking up Dear Evan Hansen if you haven't. In December, this one really got me. So the middle grade group read The Naughty List by Michael Fry, and very few didn't like it, but then the others, me included, it was so funny. It was like, it's written like a Diary of a Wimpy Kid, so you've got illustrations and you've got the story, but the sister is trying to get her brother off of the naughty list, and it has these quirky humor things in it, and it was just a fun spin on the story of Santa and the naughty list, and I found it very humorous, and it's a quick read. So if you like just silly little middle grade humor, it was well written. I really enjoyed it. So it's a great transition to get, like, if you are a teacher or a parent or a librarian, it's the same way as Diary of a Wimpy Kid, but it's not Diary of a Wimpy Kid. So if you're looking for something to like veer those Diary of a Wimpy Kid students to, Michael Fry and The Naughty List was a good one. And then the YA group read Decked with Holly by Marnie Bates. And this one, a couple liked it and the others thought it was not worth their time. But it's also like a fluffy teen romance. So if you think about those like 14-year-olds that are getting their first crushes, and it's gonna be kind of like fluffy. It's not supposed to be adult romance type of book. So some enjoyed the little light fluff read, not putting much thought into it, and then some felt like they wish they would have picked something else. So I'm probably down the road gonna try it anyways, because I need to look for fluff romance, because I have many kiddos that like romance novels. And in January, This was a book that also had some mixed reviews. Green Glass House by Kate Milford. Every booktuber that I watch, they rave about this book. They love this book. So I was a little disheartened when, you know, some of the people in our book group didn't care for it. But I understand where they're coming from, because the characters in this book create aliases. And so there's so many characters to keep track of that people just get confused, and it was hard to follow. So that was kind of like a problem, but I think it's worth a try. I would recommend you trying it, and it's a series. So, and it follows this boy named Milo, who is an innkeeper's adopted son, and this inn isn't a normal inn, it's a smuggler's inn, and it's in the winter time. And so there's this mystery that Milo wants to decipher, and he uses his friend Medi to search for clues and stuff, and they create aliases for people. And so it just gets confusing, because without the aliases there's a lot of characters. But I almost want to give it another try to see if, like, the second time around things are a little clearer. But so I would suggest reading that book. And the YA group, and this is a middle grade YA, but The Brave by James Bird, another great unanimous 5 stars. I read this one. Follows a boy, Colin, who, when people talk to him, he automatically counts the letters in the sentences and that people say. And his father and his mother are split up, and his father can't deal with him anymore. He's always getting in trouble at school, so he sends his son Colin to live with his mother, who happens to live in Duluth, Minnesota, which is an hour and 40 minutes from me. So I've been there so many times, and she's a Native American, so again it touches the culture and community of people living around our neighborhood. So it was another great read on, you know, mental health and the Ojibwe reservation again, and just it was such a great book. And he made the book where he underlines letters on the pages, and if you put them all together, there's a message. And I tried doing that, and my 41-and-a-half-year-old eyes could not focus. And I tried Googling it, and I couldn't find it. So if any of you have read it and looked up the little message, please let me know in the comments what it says, please. And for February, so the middle grade group in February read Sweep, The Story of a Girl and Her Monster by Jonathan Auxier, who, such a great book, another winning book in our club. We all gave this 5 stars. It follows Nan, a little girl who happens to be a chimney sweep in London, and she gets stuck in a chimney, and she was given this little piece of coal, and it becomes like her little monster. It's her little friend that keeps her company, and she relies on this little friend. And it was really good at touching the story, the history of using kids to sweep out chimneys in Victorian London, and also to touch the little thing of coal that she had as her friend. There is I can't remember what it's called. It's called a golem, and it's kind of like this ancient myth kind of thing. But it was so good. It even got some of the readers in the middle grade group to look into other books that have to deal with chimney sweeps and like child labor stuff at that time. So it was a really good like hard hitting, like, I mean, it was sad. There's some sad, I cried, but it's so worth the read. So Sweep by Jonathan Auxier. And then the YA group read Instructions for Dancing, which I haven't read yet. I really want to, by Nicola Yoon. So she is the author of like Everything, Everything, and The Sun Is Also a Star. Great author. Everybody loved this book. It didn't, I mean, it seems like this author just never disappoints. And I haven't read it. It's like a YA romance. I don't even really know what it's about. Just kind of like people's romantic fates. And so everybody that read it highly recommends other people to read it. So that was for February. For March, we all read the same book, and that was Fighting Words by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. This was an awesome novel. Also another heart-wrenching novel. Everybody loved it, 5 stars. It touches 2 sisters who are in foster care. It touches the story of being in foster care, some abuse that was going on, new people at, like, new peers at school, and just trying to get through life as well as they can with how rough they have it. And there's like some sexual abuse in it, so there are trigger warnings for that, just like a couple of the other books that we have read. But it was a really great book. You know, your heart just hurts for these characters, but I would highly recommend reading Fighting Words by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. Great book. In April, we read, The Field Guide to the North American Teenager by Ben Felipe, I think is how you say his last name. And this was mixed reviews again. So it's about a Canadian teenager who moves with his mother to Texas. And this book, I felt, touched a lot of things that people deal with in high school. You know, you've got your cliques, you've got your stereotypes, you've got alcohol use in high school, you know, the peer pressure stuff. I liked it. I felt like it covered a lot of great topics that high schoolers go through. So if you're looking for a YA that is, you know, hitting those kind of topics of, you know, the dating scene, the clique scene, the fitting in scene, the stereotypes, you know, in the book, Norris, the main character, is the one that moves to Texas, and he already has this preconceived notion that everybody in Texas is a certain way, and then as he makes friends, he finds out, hey, it's not how I saw it before. So I thought it was a good read. It's worth your time, I think. Let's see here. Did we have a last book? No, that was it. April was our last book, and we met in May. So that wraps up our first year of book club, and we're gonna give it a go again next year. I pick out all the book options, and then everybody votes on what we read, and then the next month we get together and we talk about it. Sometimes we meet at the school, other times we go to like a restaurant or a bar or something like that to just like get out, have drinks, eat with coworkers. So yeah, I'm really excited that it went well and people want to do it again next year, and I have fun picking out the stuff. I get a little overwhelmed because there's so many book options and so many books, so little time, but yeah. So I hope this helps you find a new book, or if it's a book that you've been contemplating, that us talking about what we thought of it helps push you to read it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, see you later.